So hello friends, I am Neeraj and hope you are doing good. So today let us complete our Docker Compose session, and in this session we are going to run our Django application that we built and inside the container, and we are going to use having three services like Nginx as a web server to serve our static content, our taking the request over web, and our Django application, that would be a Django application, and our database we are going to use MySql, right? So I have already created a sample Django application. This is a very base one. So this Nginx is going to have its own Docker file, and our Django application is also having its own Docker file. So in Django application we are using Docker ignore as well, so that when v is my development virtual environment, so I don't want this when v to be uploaded inside container, so that is why I have ignored it. So Docker ignore is just like a git ignore, and I am also going to use .env file so that I can export all the the variables written over there. So that would be needed by my database to connect the data, my Django application, to our database, so that it can be exported. And here in requirement.txt file we are having three dependencies. Like we need Django, and in order to serve our application, Django application, we are going to use Gunicorn, and in order to connect to MySql, so we are going to use MySql client adapter, so that it can connect to MySql database. And this is its Docker file. So its Docker file is since we are going to use MySql client, so that is why we are going to use the Python base image version 3.10 and not a slim version or not Alpine, because otherwise we might need to install all the other underlying dependencies over there. So this would be a Debian one, and it would be having all sort of requirements, right? So our working directory is Django inside our container, and this environment variable we are setting Python unbuffered to make it a non-empty value, so that we can get if there is any error in our application, so it gets to the terminal output. And next we are updating our pip, because MySql client might have some issue with the older pip versions, so it's better to upgrade the pip as well and use the latest softwares. And next we are copying our requirement.txt file from this file to inside container, and next we are installing all the dependencies of requirement.txt file, and once everything is finished we are copying the file content from this host machine to container, right? So this is what our Django Docker file will looks like. And now come to our Docker Compose. So let's start a few things. Let's proceed one by one. So in our Django we need to expose some ports. So we will be using ports. Our Django app would be running on, let's say, port 8001 inside our host, and inside container it will be listening on port 8001. And the command, we actually also need to provide a command. You might recall in Docker file we can issue a CMD, so command instruction. So similarly we can also provide a command over here. So command, and we will be using Gunicorn. And if you look at our Django application, so the base folder is named as core. So Gunicorn core.wsgi file, that would serve our application. And we will also bind ports. So bind, and we are binding to all the servers and on port 8001, right? And next let's complete our database container as well. So our database container named as, we are going to use MySQL and container name is dbcont, but here we think of it like that when you install MySQL, so one root user is automatically created, and but we need to specify the password of that user, and in our case we also want that when our Django application would run, so definitely it would connect to a database. So we need to create the database automatically over there. So in order to do that, we can fortunately we can provide some environment variable, and there is nothing to worry about. So we can set them in environment variables. So it's a key value pair. So first we will start with MySQL and root password, and in my case I am going to set it to Nginx MySQL root password, and next variable we are going to use as MySQL database, and our database name would be test_db. So this way, with this instruction we are telling our Django, our Docker Compose to create a database named testdb whenever a DB service gets up. So let's save it now, and now it looks to be okay. And one more thing, that if we go this way, it might happen that our Django application will start running, but it may happen that our database operation, that database service doesn't get up. So in that case our Django app will crash. So in order to fix that, to solve that issue, actually that might happen. So we can use another syntax, depends on, and depends on actually with this syntax we are telling Docker Compose to start this service until the underlying dependent service gets up. So in this case we are going to use db, so we want our Django service to up and after once that db service gets up, right? So and similarly, because in Nginx also we will need to our Django app to get up first. I will show that to you. So but first let me write it. Depends on, and it depends on our Django_app. Maybe typo here. Okay, so with this we want our Nginx service to get up once our Django app gets up, right? So I'll tell you the reason for that. So first let me create a file in Nginx, cause in Nginx container we need to specify like you might recall that we were using symlinking in while setting up our Nginx. So we used to create symlinks. So so that our Nginx could know how to serve the application content, right? So we will create a file. Let's name it default.conf, and inside this file, so actually we are going to replace the default configuration file with our own configuration file, so that it can know how to serve the Django application, right? So we will start with upstream and we will name it Django, and we will define our server as our service name. So our service name is Django_app running on port 8001. Put a semicolon, and next we start with our server block. So listen on port 80, server name localhost, and now we'll start with location block. So we want all the requests on this server to be redirected to our Django application, Django server. So in order to do that, we will proxy pass. So we will proxy all the requests on root location to our HTTP Django server, Django upstream, right? So this is it. So this looks to be okay. And now in the Docker file, we need to copy this file as well. So let's copy it. default.conf2. We need to copy this file inside our container at this location, etc nginx conf.d default.conf. right now it looks to be okay. So let's check it out. So right now there are no images, no container running on my Docker desktop. So let's start it. So we will say docker compose build. It might take some time. It will take the images, right? So it is up, and right now let's see docker compose up. So it's running. It might take some time to create the services for us, and if there is any error, so definitely we will see that and we will fix them. So looks to be okay. Nginx is up. Go to container. In Docker desktop, all the 3 services are running fine. So here also in our database container, if we try to MySql -p show databases, you can see like we are already having a test database over here, right? Now inspect something more. Our Django container is also running fine, no issues. So let's go to browser and try to access localhost. So our Django application is running fine. So we are getting the content. So this is a very base installation, nothing fancy. So our application is running fine, and application is running fine in all the three separate containers as a 3 separate services. But there is one more thing which we can extend. That see, the thing is like when container gets destroyed and container gets recreated, so we can also our database services is running inside a container. So whenever this container gets lost, so we will also get we will also lose all the data inside this container. So in order to fix this, we need to have some way so that our data stores on the host machine. So in order to do that, we need to map volumes, right, from our host machine to the container. So that we can do it very easily. So in our local machine, on our host machine, so we will create a folder data, and inside data, actually the purpose of this folder is that we can have all the data from all the containers inside this folder, so that our data could be preserved, because it may happen that your application might use multiple databases like MySQL, Postgres and Redis. So that is why it is a convention to name appropriately. So data, MySQL and DB, and inside the container side, the actual data of MySQL resides at the location, that is var lib MySQL, right? So right now if we rebuild it, so let's see that that in action. Okay, Control C to close our container up. Right now you can see there is one data folder, data name folder is created. So this is lying on our host machine. So in case we recreate our container, so our data won't be lost. So you can see our test DB is also here, and if we access our application, it is running fine, no issues. And we can also cross check it here. Like one more thing which we can do. So for example, say go to dbcon. Although our database has been created, but there is no data inside it. So MySQL -p, provide the password, use test DB, show tables. So there is no tables inside it, but Django uses for a fresh application, for a fresh Django installation, we need to migrate some data. So that we can do very easily. Here we are seeing, so we can fire the command python manage.py migrate. What problem it is? There is some problem in it. Okay, wait a second. I think like we didn't. Okay, yes, so actually we didn't export environment variables. My fault. So do you remember? So you might remember that I showed you that I have kept all the environment variables inside this file. So we need to tell Django like whatever the environment variables are. So env. So our file name is .django and .env. Save it and let's destroy our containers. Docker compose down. Let's try to rebuild it. Now Docker compose up. So created, looks to be okay. Our application is running fine. Yes, it is running fine. And now this time if we go to our Django container and we can fire a command python manage.py migrate. So it is applying all the migrations that we can cross check it here inside our data container. Go to terminal, log into MySQL console, enter password, mirror, use test underscore DB, show tables. So you can see like we are having all these tables which comes as a when we migrate when we migrate the databases which come pre-installed with Django, so they are already inside our database container. That means like our application is running fine, and we have covered many things. We have seen how we can instruct dependencies. We have also used volumes, we have also used environment files, and many things which many new concepts, obviously. Yes, so these are few new concepts, so but that is running fine. So hope you liked, hope you enjoyed the session, and if there is any issue or any confusion, any query, so please do let me know. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. So till then, take care and happy coding.